Welcome to the Elk Season Podcast. Today on the Elk Season Podcast, we're going to be talking about Tiger Woods. We're going to talk about Bigfoot. We're going to be talking about Elk 101.
Yes, Elk 101.
Elk 101 is really important, and it's like the elephant in the room. We're going to be talking about quesadillas, hot quesadillas, because I love hot quesadillas.
I saw you brought your pans.
We have some elk news. Or just outdoor sports news. Anything that applies to being 9,000 feet in the Rockies. That's where we want to be.
Nice.
You gonna turn that mic up a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Check. All right, we're good. Sorry.
First off, there is some new content on YouTube this week from the guys at Elk 101. And in the very first episode, and I've watched 2 and I've started the third one.
Well, I haven't started the third, but I did watch the first 2, yes.
Okay. So the
Elk Season 101.
Elk 101, and the very first episode of Elk 101, we get to meet all the guys that are doing YouTube videos for Elk 101 this year, and I really, really, really like the format. It's really good. I think in previous years... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's rock solid. And I think what was surprising to me is I didn't know all of them, but I knew I'm familiar with a few of them. Corey being... Yeah. I know I've come across this stuff before. Randy, definitely.
Yeah.
So at least a few, I say a few, there's 2 that I've, but it was really cool to kind of get to know them. That first episode was really just, and I mean this politely, kind of a commitment, because you kind of have to get through just knowing everybody's history. But that's what was cool about it, hearing all their different backgrounds, where they're from, where they're going to be hunting, and what they're up against. And
exactly what we talk about on Elk Season when we have guests, and I may have a guest next week.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Who I've never met. Anyways, story to come. I want to talk about Elk 101 because when they got around to talking about Corey Jacobson,
yes,
they talked about him calling elk and being in elk calling competitions at the age of 9.
Started young.
Okay, I told you we were going to talk about Tiger Woods.
Yes,
Tiger Woods was on the Tonight Show playing golf with Johnny Carson when he was 5 years old.
Wow, I didn't realize that about
That's
Tiger.
a fact. When you start young, you start your children young in any sport. You have to start them at the very beginning. Tiger Woods was 5 when he was on Johnny Carson.
Wow.
Okay. Corey Jacobson was 9 when he started entering and winning elk calling competitions. So, imagine if you could get golfing instructions from Tiger Woods.
It'd be really good.
Would you pay $100 for golfing instructions from Tiger Woods? That's what the Elk 101 course costs, is $100.
Oh, okay.
For a guy who's been doing it since he was 9.
Yeah, that's actually incredible.
It's an invaluable resource. I promise I will be taking that class. I will have reviews on the Elk Season Podcast. I promise that's going to happen, because that is a glowing endorsement of a hunter. Is starting at a very, very young age.
Sure. Something that, in a way, we do, but we don't have, because we're first gens, because of our dad not having that outdoorsy ability. And so we were very much late bloomers. And even though we know this about starting kids young, I think that's kind of one of those things, is it might take, depending on the circumstance and the family and the motivation, a couple generations before that takes hold at such a young age. Yeah. I got my kids sort of out to the outdoors, but I have not spent the amount of time that I really want to with all of them out in the mountains. But having my oldest boy hiking, you've known this since the dawn of time, 7, 8 years old, I'm hiking him in places up in elk country. And of course he hiked up Bora with us. Yeah. He got his butt kicked, but what we have, and this is to my, I don't know, I was thinking about this coming into this podcast. Wasn't sure how it was going to come up, but it's already here. So let's just get it over with. He's never been hunting with me, and he's 15. Yeah. And he does have his hunting license for rifle, but he hasn't had his bow. And so we actually started investigating this, because I said, you got to get your bow stamp and you got to get this figured out. And I can see that he's interested, but he's not as interested as he could be, because, well, I've just not been as engaged. So I'm going to get him set up with these classes. You can do it here where we're at in Twin Falls. You can't find a bow class that's live within 100 miles. Yeah. It's got to be done online. And so you can do it online. And I think there's more of a fee than there used to be, which is okay. But we'd have to go to Idaho Falls or Caldwell or something like that.
We've talked about it before, but I would volunteer with you to put one on.
Yeah.
I would. We should talk to Fish and Game.
Yeah, see what would that take?
I have no idea.
So yeah, because we have that the Fish and Game Center in Jerome County.
Yeah.
So, and that's where he did his hunter's ed, and that was really cool. And but at the same time, it's like, well, he's got to do it online. There's no field day that I can tell, but we'll see. He hates online work, so I think that's part of his lack of motivation.
Sure.
Having been sent home in the last year, is just.
I'll tell you what. I'll buy that kid a $1,500 camera. All you got to do is follow me around during elk season.
Well, and I talked to him about that too.
Some of the footage, if you've seen the intro, and do they have a killer intro song?
They do.
Oh man, Elk 101. I'm still talking about Elk 101. And the footage they showed some highlights. Yeah. They are the premier elk footage entity on the internet. It is Elk 101, and they got some incredible stuff coming up. Yeah. And they've already shown some incredible stuff.
Episode 2, right away, when you have these crews going out and they're just barely stepping foot into the wilderness, and it's like, oh, there's elk right there, and that's akin to their knowledge and their ability to get out there, and we've amassed some knowledge to be able to do that more frequently. And I'm excited for Labor Day weekend. I'll be honest about that. Going through gear yesterday, thinking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to make sure that I have this pack ready and this thing ready. And so it is a year-round thing. You have to be that engaged, and I can't say that I've been as engaged. And we had a brief discussion before this, saying your motivation tends to outpace my motivation as much as my hiking might outpace yours as of late.
But as of late, that's right. Correct that statement.
But it doesn't mean that, I think part of it is just getting more involved, and doing this podcast has certainly helped me keep it fresh in my mind. Insight in mind.
And that's when I started a year ago. I started on TikTok, and I love elk season. It's September means so much to me. My whole year is like, well, I'm working today, but I'm working for elk season.
Yeah.
I'm at the gym. What am I really doing this for? You're standing there, you're looking at your 100th burpee, and you're like, every decision I've ever made in my life has led me to this burpee. Why? Right? And it's like, well, elk season, that's why. And it keeps me focused. Hey, why are you doing these projects around the house? So September. Yeah. I'm paying dues, man. I am paying dues. I try to be gone as much as I can, and I tell my wife, remember when I fixed this? Remember when I did this? It's for elk season.
I know, and it's kind of crazy because now I think, I have this little utility trailer I bought last year. Yeah. I'm like, I need to buy A, spare tires, but B, do they have like off-roady tires for this kind of trailer so I can just pull it? I think it'd make it to some of our locations just fine to haul gear and hopefully an animal out.
Oh yeah.
I'm still looking forward to after, probably, let's see, I'd say 17 years of elk hunting with a few years that were pulled back because I was going to school and I wasn't as available.
Sure.
So maybe 10, 12 years of actual elk pursuit with the first... Well, hold on. I'd say there's probably 15 years with the first 5 years really being hit and miss because there was just no knowledge base. It was just, I had that bow we talked about. Yeah. I had my license, and then I'm wearing flannel, bright colors out.
when I look at Elk 101, and I think about what my personal mission statement for elk season is to encourage guys to do this. This is the greatest adventure you can have in America. That's just my opinion. But archery elk being 9,000 feet in the Rocky Mountains, it is the greatest outdoor sport in North America. And anytime you go out, even if you're shed hunting, even if you're out shooting rabbits, anytime you get outdoors, something new happens, something novel happens, and your life feels longer because of it. And so every elk season makes my life longer. And every shed hunting hike I go on makes my year feel fuller, makes my life feel longer. And so staying engaged in that content makes sure that I'm thinking about it, and it makes my life feel better.
The novelty of the outdoors, which I've talked at length about in private with you in terms of, how it helps me hit reset, but what it does to the brain, and it helps grow new connections because even if you go to a place year after year, there's still the novelty of this tree wasn't down last year, or you're hiking to a new part of this area that
you're
into.
sweating more. You're wearing something different. It's a different tree. The weather's different.
All of that stuff translates in your brain to new growth, which gives you increased efficiency of function of the brain. Not that we want to go into brain health, but there is something about it that is actually legit in terms of how you are wired by experience. And the more experience you get, especially in the realm of novelty experience, helps you improve brain function.
You know what? I think, no, I have used elk season as a reset for my life for many years. To view my life, to literally be physically removed from everything in my life and to be looking at my life. I feel like during elk season, I'm looking at my life at 30,000 feet and just going, oh, well, that's not that bad. I could do this. I could do this. And it really calms my brain down.
Yeah.
When I can remove myself from life and be way up in the Rockies and be engaged. And it's not like you can have earbuds in. You're hunting elk. The only sound is the thoughts in your head. And if you train them right, you'll say the right things.
Yes.
You got to say the right things to yourself.
Yes.
And also, never gonna give you up.
Don't rickroll us.
I know.
This is only episode 5. That was supposed to be episode 6. You told me.
So again, the mission statement of elk season, and what I think Elk 101 wants is more people involved in elk season.
Sure.
That's what I want. I feel so strongly about the experience of elk season. I want every human in the world who wants to, if you want to.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of millions of public acres to hunt out west. Like just barely over 200 million, but that is hundreds of millions.
I know it can feel frustrating sometimes when you're out there and you see a bunch of other hunters maybe at a trailhead and it's like, where are you going? And we've had encounters with people that were a little bit frustrated that more hunters were showing up, but I've come to learn, and this is how I appreciate it, and I hope if any of you are out there listening can appreciate what I'm about to say, there's a vast wilderness. There's a lot of places for us to go. There's plenty of room for all of us. I can appreciate the frustration after, you spotted some animals and there's other guys coming in and places going around, but that's kind of par for course with the land we share. And so there's no ill will on, I think, our part ever to try to stomp on anybody's ground, but it's a shared land. And so we just need to be mindful and respectful of that.
And it's just as much mine as it is yours.
Yeah.
And that's guys from Tennessee and Alabama, as much as guys that live here in Idaho.
Which it's been surprising to me, the stuff you share, how many different places out east. Holy cow.
Way out east.
That is inspiring.
I know. My goal for elk season, like 50,000 followers, which, by the way, Elk 101 just hit 100,000.
Nice.
100,000 followers on YouTube. We might have 5.
Yay.
It's a
Thank
start.
you, all 5 of you.
But it's a start.
I'm one of them.
But I thought between Canada and Mexico, there'd be 50,000 archery elk hunters. But I'm thinking the Rockies. I wasn't even thinking the guys out east.
Right.
And when you start watching YouTube and you're like, I drove 22 hours, I drove 14 hours, I drove 13 hours. You're like, what? These guys aren't from the Rocky Mountains.
Right.
That's so great. It's such a great adventure. And so many of them fail. It's a 90% fail rate. It's awful.
In terms of harvest. In terms of harvest.
But everybody says, I got everything I wanted out of this hunt.
Right.
I got a novel experience. I got a close encounter with an elk.
Yeah.
I got to experience life in the Rockies. And
we said last year was my least, at least for me, my least closest encounter. We only got within about 70, 80 yards of some bulls. And that was the farthest away I had gotten from elk in any elk season since 2013.
Wow, almost a decade.
At one point throughout every season, I'd been within 40 yards or less.
Oh, it's just killer.
Yeah.
It just kills you.
It's and all the ones where I'm within 20 to 30 yards, it's comedy of errors, man. Either I'm falling asleep or I can't pull my string back because I had the wrong muscle group. And don't get me started. I'll get trolled about, what do you mean wrong muscle group? It's a long, complicated story.
Yeah.
But
man, it's hard waking up.
That
song, Waking Up is hard to do?
Yeah.
No, wait, it's breaking up.
Indecisiveness in terms of which animal to shoot. I mean, all these dumb things that you have to kind of go through. The uncomfortable learning curve of the feedback loops of life are present when you're an elk hunter.
Yeah. So I think what Elk 101 does is they show the apex of what an elk hunt could be. They show it, and they show it well.
Yeah.
And they give you advice. They have Elk 101. They have the Elk Hunting University, UEH, University of Elk Hunting.
Okay.
And you take this course, and it's a great start. I think everybody should learn everything they can about elk season when they go elk hunting. But I think there's something missing. And when we talk about the discrepancy of, well, where do I even get bow hunter safety? Right?
Yeah.
It's one thing. It's one thing to be on the internet, and it's another to be in the Rockies.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need. Here's what I think. Just what I think. I'm just throwing this out there. I don't really know. But if the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation could sponsor hunters like you and me to do an intern, to do a what's the word I'm looking for? Apprenticeship.
Okay.
An apprenticeship. You need to be up next to an actual hunter, see how they do things, a bow hunter, and see how they hike and what time they go. And there's so much missing. There's so much missing from the internet. And I think an apprenticeship could help bridge that gap between what they're hunting in the East and what they could hunt out West.
Yeah.
And so an apprenticeship from anybody, I don't care. I mean, I would try to apprentice anyone. It's one of the things my brother hates most about me. Is I will invite anybody off the street to go elk hunting with me. I love elk hunting that much, and he knows it. It's true, and he hates it about me. He doesn't hate it.
I will say that I'm more particular than my brother is when it comes to these things. I will say that.
I feel like the experience in the woods is so fantastic. I can't keep it to myself. It's so rude. It's so rude. How dare you not tell the whole world about how good this feels? That's just me.
Way to throw me under the bus as being stingy.
Don't think that that's 60% of me, and there's 40% that goes, stay away. It's mine. It's all mine.
I think we all have a little bit of that.
Right. So there's definitely that part of me. But when you realize how many other hunters you run into, and how infrequently you run into them,
right,
and the encounters that you have are so positive, and everybody's so cool. Come on, guys, let's go hunting.
Yeah,
come on out. There's plenty of room. That's what it is. So that's where Elk 101 ties in to what the mission statement of elk season is. Don't be afraid to just start. You know what? You need practice. You should plan a trip out west to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And rent a camper, and then you can come out and scout your elk thing under the guise of it's a family.
It's a family outing.
So try that one.
Hey, that's what I do. When I scouted the area up there, I took my family camping, and I'm we're going camping for my birthday. But I was really there, and I think there's a book that I actually have packed somewhere. I want to talk about it on the podcast. Elk Tactic. It's from 1998 or something like that. It's a really good book. But the thing that captivated me in the 3 hours it took me to read this, because it was so, I would talk about my motivation. It was really strong when I came across this book. And I'll even show on the camera here when I find the book, places where I highlighted and underlined, because he talked about experiences that you and I had. Yeah. And it was so familiar. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's something about it. Now, granted, it's an old book, and the guy was just speaking mostly from his own experiences, but that's accumulated knowledge. There's something valuable to that, and that's what helped me feel more confident out in the woods. So learning from others is important. And so I think I've held too much of a critical eye towards people who just only show but you're talking about the internet, getting rid of all the fluff, or the what would you say, the nuance. A really important nuance, because you only get to see certain aspects, because, well, it makes sense to edit out all the stuff that's not as fun. There are boring parts to hunting. But at the same time, I realized that, there's so much, like Randy Newberg. He'll cut out all that extra stuff, but at the same time, it's like there's value in listening to other people who hunt, because you never know what's going to strike the chord with you that helps you find the confidence and then the success that you're ultimately looking for in a harvest.
Yeah.
I call my own success, though, I'm a great hunter. I'm just not, I'm horrible at harvesting, never harvested, but I've been really close to these animals, and I just things and I'll get there.
And that's one of the things I really appreciate. Excuse me. Randy Newberg's voice on the internet.
Yeah.
Is his attitude is pretty much the same whether he harvests or not. Right? Well, we didn't get one. We had a great time. Well, we got one. We had a great time. It's really pretty flat. And there's no ego there.
No.
I really love Randy Newberg.
And I didn't realize he was a tax accountant.
Right. You never would.
And so, but I like his attitude. And here's what I love about Randy, because when I watched all these guys, and I know I'm a little bit biased because Randy is the one I know the most.
Right.
He says, I don't care. I'll stick an arrow in anything.
Yeah.
And that I can legally shoot.
Food. Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need the biggest bull. I don't need it to be a bull. I just need it to be an animal. I can appreciate the fun of getting the whatever. I don't even know what the numbers mean. I think we talked about this a little bit last week. How big is the spread? That means something to me?
Yeah.
No, not yet anyway.
Not yet. Right. And when you have a car that can go 0 to 60, then you only care about the cars that can go 0 to 60 faster than you. And so then your ego's entered into the game, and it's dumb. It's a useless game.
Yeah.
However, there are two things. One of my greatest fears is not harvesting an elk, and I think my second greatest fear is harvesting an elk too soon.
Yeah.
Because I've had opportunities, and I'm like, there's meat in the freezer right there. But then my elk season's over.
Yeah.
I mean, what? I love it too much. Now we'll let them go. There'll be plenty of opportunities.
2 years in a row, I was 30 and 40 yards away from bulls, and that was opening day, and I would have been over. And
I would have cried. You cry.
Yeah.
If your season's over opening weekend, it's almost sad. I look forward so much to every day in September.
But if I could share a secret with you, I've been carrying this with me for years.
Okay.
I kind of hope to harvest opening day, so I can just go out with you the rest of the season to be an accomplice, because I don't want to have to worry about packing the bow around, and I just want to kind of do that.
Yeah, I know. You're right. And
there is something. So it's kind of like a silent competition to who gets to just be around without having the stress of having to get close and do that, but to also to help and to call in and all that stuff,
and to experience, just to be there. And so to that, I want to bring some nuance to the Elk Season podcast in how to improve your experience out west. And there are little things you can do.
Share.
There are little things you can do. And my brother remembers his first 9,000-foot quesadilla.
Yes, I do.
No, it wasn't that big of a quesadilla. It was a quesadilla at 9,000 feet.
Well,
hot,
yes,
hot good food. Hot good food is really important. And I bought this, so I have this in. If you're listening to this, you can go to our YouTube channel and see this entire thing. I might pull bits and pieces out of this and put it on Facebook or TikTok. But this is my pan. I'll show you my quesadilla pan. This is my quesadilla kit, and as you can see, it's pretty big. So I have it comes with a three pan kit, and the bottom pan is like a fry pan. Oh look, there's still twigs and stuff stuck in the net.
So don't get rid of the evidence that we actually go out. There could be people who watch this going,
right.
"Oh, they just talk."
Right. And here I have my handy dandy freezer quart Ziploc, and there are tortillas that fit inside this freezer quart Ziploc.
Yeah.
And with all you need is 4 tortillas a day.
Yeah, it's
right?
not much.
Or even if you're packing in for an extended stay, you can bring a lot of tortillas in a single Ziploc, and they fit inside this pan under the other pans.
So it's a nice compact backpacking situation.
Now, inside the pan, I have other delicates, is what I call them. So I put Twinkies if I want special treats. Really? Because that way, Twinkies are only good if they got all the air in them. And we have packed Twinkies into the backcountry. So this is a nice protective case for the stuff that not only my quesadilla kit, but for stuff I don't want to get squished. If I do want a piece of bread or you have some leftover lasagna from home or something. Anyways, it's a great place. It's a great place to store that. But with just tortillas and a squeeze tube of canola butter. That is the oil that I use up in the Rockies because it gets cold. It also gets hot, and you kind of have to mush it back together.
But I've carried that crap. I mean, stuff, butter, oil, whatever it is.
Yeah, you carry it, and And it's to keep it from sticking to the pan. It's to get it crispy and golden and crispy. And
it lasts forever, by the way. So in 2000, was it 13 or 14? I bought a little blue tube of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't put it in those whatever the
things
the
I
roll.
do,
Yeah. So it was just there in this blue tube, and it would be used every year for hunting. And then we realized it's still in the fridge when we were moving in 2019. So I started in 2013. 2019, we still had some left.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess.
You know where I'm going with that. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I'll go through 2 or 3 squeeze tubes a season.
Yeah,
because I just you get home and it's covered in stuff. And you're like, throw it away. Let's get a new one. And I just get a tub of canola. The canola is a cold climate crop, and so its oils don't gel as quickly, and so they grow a lot of it up in Canada.
Okay.
Anyway, so some canola oil. I don't know if it's the super healthiest for your heart or whatever.
Well,
but and I don't care because
I'm working it off, man. I'm hiking up mountains.
Whatever's in it is better than what's in a freeze-dried food pouch.
Bingo.
Period. Okay?
End of story.
It's gonna taste better. If you really want to enhance, and I mean, a hot quesadilla enhances an elk hunt. I mean, a lot. A hot meal in the middle of the day, cheesy, and
there's chicken that you can throw into it. There's a bunch of meats that are packaged in small packaging that you can backpack that are just not going to take...
Summer sausage.
Yep.
Pepperoni. There's packaged Spam is one of my favorites. I'm known for Spam. I love Spam.
I got so burnt out on the
Spam.
The Spam singles were great once upon a time for me, but I would go back if Spam singles come out with Spam cheese and bacon singles.
Ooh, they might exist.
Spam, let's do it.
They might exist on the internet.
Might.
But whatever. It really is. Meals are a really big part of what you're doing during elk season. They really are, and they can make or break your day. And a hot quesadilla is it to have it crispy. You know, you're not getting something crispy out of a pouch.
Yeah,
right. And there's always some of that weird water left in the bottom of it. You gotta
don't get me started on the eggs.
So yeah,
I've got some that I need to throw them away, but I think I have them because you handed them over to me. I don't know what you were thinking
because I don't want them.
But
my brother will eat them.
No,
or he'll store them for 10 years before he throws them away
with the canola. And so, anyway,
yeah. So okay, so that's and we will continue to talk about food on the Elk Season podcast.
Yeah,
because all those things are really important. Nutrition is really important. Speaking of nutrition, I was on my diet this week. Yeah. I'm down 2 more pounds is all.
Nice.
To 251. I'm still over an eighth of a ton.
Yeah, so am I. I haven't really been vocal on my actual weight.
Oh, okay.
But I'm about 20 pounds heavier than that.
Okay,
there you
go. That's all right.
But I'm down about let's see.
You're a half a foot taller too.
It doesn't show as much. Well,
3 inches. It feels like half a foot though.
That's a quarter foot. Yeah. I'm a quarter foot taller.
Yeah.
So, but I'm steadily losing weight, and it's just portion control. I've been trying to move around more the exercise routine, and I've been weighing myself every morning. I'm going to shift and see how that changes to weighing myself before I go to bed every night.
Okay.
So I'm going to see how the month of February goes. But I have
do both. Didn't you do both for a while? Because there's like a 2-pound loss of just exhalation water vapor, you know, when you sleep, or there can be. I don't know the way I heard there's enough calories in a 6-pack of beer to equal a loaf of bread.
Probably. You can see my chart there. See, there's a blue line, which is my daily weight.
He has a chart. Yeah, you better hold that one up there.
And the red line, is my 3-day average. So it's a lot smoother of a line. It's not as jumpy. And so I don't know if it's going to translate very well into the camera, but
that's okay. Well, I'll yank it out of there. It'll be fine.
But it's good to track yourself. I have my goal for April. The weight that I've lost from 285 down to 270 almost.
Oh, nice.
In a month. You know, if I can just continue that trend. So I'm going to have to continue to challenge myself, but find, you know, make time to just exercise more, get a bit in better shape.
Yeah, and I told you last week I was going to up my exercise.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen.
I told you the same thing. It didn't happen for me.
So, well, there was a week lag time between what my programming is doing for the lifts and everything, and what the actual gym is doing. And so, in order for those things to match, I needed to just wait a week and let the programming catch up, because they follow it a week later, so that they have time to look at the workouts and write solid warm-ups for the workouts and kind of integrate it into their process. So anyway, anyways, I'm starting this week.
Okay. And
I got a really busy week. The Southern Idaho Ag Show is going on this weekend. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'm going to be and Saturday, just buried. I'm sure we'll make the podcast, because we could talk elk for hours and hours and hours.
Oh yeah.
But as far as progress goes, for my health, I am down to 251 pounds, which is, I'm trying to think of the last elk season I was that light, and it's been many. It's been a few, like maybe 5 even.
Yeah, I'm still 10 pounds heavier than when I ended elk season last September.
Really?
So I started off kind of heavy, but I ended and I got down to 260.
Oh yeah.
And then I just let the holidays be my friend with food.
The only time I'm in good enough shape to handle elk season is when elk season's over.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, now I'm ready. So I'm up in the training. Well, I'll give you updates as we go. It's a really, really important part of elk season. Please don't skimp on leg day. Yes, you need to do cardio. You need to do some. You need to probably ride a bike. That one guy, John the Hunter.
Yeah. John, fantastic.
We'll talk about John the Hunter, I'm sure, coming up. But he is very dedicated to cycling and staying in shape, because he lives in the Midwest.
He lives for it.
He lives in the Midwest, and there's not a lot of mountains out there. So when you got to climb some real hills, some real mountains, you got to be ready, and he is.
Yeah.
So that's that. Let's get into the elk season news.
Okay.
All the stuff. I talked a lot about elk season 101. I'm looking forward to the rest of elk season 101. I like the format that they're doing in that they're going chronologically through September. They have all these different guys out. I think in previous years, Corey Jacobson wanted to be the center of like each hunt. Yeah. And it's like, that's just such a mess. He doesn't need to be the center. He's good in what he does, but there's a lot of good hunters out there.
A great shed hunter too, as I've learned.
Yeah. And excuse me. So it's nice to see all these guys in their own states doing their own thing and sort of all being on board this Elk 101 show, because they're going to have some really great footage.
Yeah. I'm going to have to jump into episode 3 now.
And I think Donnie gets first kill. And Donnie's my favorite out of that whole group.
Is that Ryan's, or is it who?
Corey's? It's Corey's partner. It's Corey's partner. Yeah.
He's the guy who's head.
He got his mohawk shaved. He's been a really big part of it. They promise no dad jokes. And it's like the first thing he opens his mouth is a dad joke. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, all right. Thank you, Donnie. Dad
jokes save my life every day. So, okay. So the first thing that pops up, I don't know how you shared these, but I'm just pulling them up in terms of the order they are. So I've got a hand next to a huge wolf print. It looks like.
How do I describe a wolf track? How do I describe the size of a wolf track?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Remind me.
Belgian waffle.
Oh, yeah. Belgian waffle.
Just like from the hotel lobby. If you see something that looks like it's been wearing Belgian waffles and stomping around the woods, that's a wolf.
Yeah, that's an impressive photo, I'll be honest.
Yeah. The photo will be up on YouTube. Yeah. But man, their prints are so big. It is really surprising that some of the first time I saw wolf tracks, I didn't know what they were, because they were so big. It was just ridiculous.
We've seen plenty of bear track.
And we know what those are.
Yeah.
But they're elongated.
Yeah.
These wolf tracks are so round.
Yeah.
And so big.
Belgian waffle
that's my description. Okay.
All right, here we go. Second thing that shows up is Virginia allowing deer hunters to harvest elk, which is what I brought up earlier, how far west or far east. And so that's really cool. And it's not a bad looking
Not a bad looking bull.
Not a bad looking bull considering, you know, what they're up against back east.
So anytime there's elk news, I'm looking for it. And if it's in Virginia, it's in Virginia. And they're hunting elk in Virginia. I think he was allowed to kill it with a deer tag, or I didn't read the article.
And all you did was send me screenshots. So.
I just sent the screenshot. I read the headline. I'm like, okay, life's busy.
You know, Grizzlies come back up this week as you have Montana hunter surviving back-to-back bear attacks.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's grizzly, but it's bear.
No,
bear
it's
attacks.
grizzly.
Oh,
it's grizzly. Yeah. And I read that one. And that was really rough because let's talk about the statistics, right? And and people are going to have some really strong opinions, but the chance of you surviving a grizzly attack with just a gun is about 60%. It's just a little better than a coin flip. Okay?
Yeah.
The chances of you surviving with pepper spray is closer to 90%. Okay? I will take the pepper spray.
Me too.
I don't mind having a gun. I don't carry one.
Nope.
It's too heavy. I got Twinkies to carry.
Right next to my pepper spray.
Right next to the pepper spray. So, and I, as much as I talk about being in the land of the wolves and the grizzlies, there's no grizzlies where I hunt. Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
There will be. I believe there will be, and there will be soon. But there's no grizzlies where I hunt. I brag about like I'm a tough guy.
You know, my 11-year-old is named after a hunter, an elk hunter, who was attacked by a grizzly and survived.
Really?
Yes. And so,
I didn't. What?
Yeah. So, this is kind of an odd story.
Okay.
So
lay it on us.
So his name is Bram.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go like Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'm like, oh, that didn't even register because where it came from for me was somewhere else. And so I was in grad school and I was having some sleep insomnia issues. And I couldn't go to sleep one night and I'm frustrated. So I'd go downstairs and I'd just watch TV. Well, we're expecting this young man. We have his middle name. It's a family name picked out, but we don't have a first name. And so I'm watching this show called I Shouldn't Be Alive. And you can stream this right now on Amazon. It's a phenomenal show. I love the show.
Yeah.
And so there's this guy, and I caught it. It's after the show has began, so I don't have introductions to who these people are. And here's this guy, this young boy. Well, he's like 15, 16, or 17 or something. He's still a teenager. And he's out hunting elk. Now, they're rifle hunting in Montana. And he turns around at this one spot and there's this grizzly and he tries to shoot it. Anyway, he gets attacked. He gets mauled pretty bad, but he ends up killing this grizzly. But he is the worst for wear. And it starts to downpour and thunder and lightning. And so the whole show, I don't have closed captioning on, but everybody's going out looking for him because he doesn't come back to camp. And they're all I can hear is Ram, Ram, Ram. I'm like, what is this name? And I'm sleep deprived. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, what is this kid's name? And so finally at the end, they show his name on the screen. I'm like, oh, his name is Bram. And it just, for whatever reason, I knew that was going to be the name of my kid.
Awesome.
And so, but this kid in Montana, he sort of stumbled across some sort of medical doctor's tent and that's what sort of saved him. And the doctor was like, I don't know if you can survive, but there was a medical professional that he ended up getting help from.
This is a true story?
This is a true story.
Wow.
And so I hope it's not that same guy that gets attacked, but
No.
But
this was pretty recent, I think 2018.
Yeah, and this was I can't remember what year this was, but yeah, I Shouldn't Be Alive. And so my son Bram he's old enough now. I've had him watch the episode and he kind of knows where his name comes from. And it's a good analogy for him as he works for, working through such adversity in life, and hopefully that helps him move forward. So, so that's
cool. You never shared that story with me before, brother. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Like that. Yeah. So the where were we then?
So we're back to we were talking about grizzlies, and we have another grizzly story. Grizzly travels 2,800 miles for food. That's the same one? So but you wanted to bring something else up about it.
So I read a little bit about that story. I read the story, and it turns out she had an affinity for apples, and
Delicious.
she kind of knew a way to get them. And not only did she start near Glacier, she ended up near Glacier. She went all the way to Coeur d'Alene and back.
Yeah.
She was actually darted and tranquilized and put a collar on her because of her apple affinity. Then
awesome.
Lost her collar and they got her again in another apple orchard.
Hey, Maud, where's the apple pie in the window?
So it's interesting how individuals, not even just a species, how individuals of a species find their food niche and their safety niche. because if they go after fish, if they go after rotting corpses, then they're going to have competition from other grizzly bears. But if you have a really good source, you don't think you can add fat by eating fruit. But I'm telling you, bears eat 18 hours a day in the fall, and they eat berries. You can get plenty fat eating that much sugar.
The first time that we went up to the where we're going in Labor Day weekend, I remember walking through raspberry patches,
big ones,
on the way out, on the way in, and I was just thinking, and seeing bear tracks up there too,
and the bear poop, full of berries. It's so red. The big pile of poop is just red with berries. So and it's so that's exciting to see, but understanding that the bear population is growing. Yeah. And hunter and grizzly encounters are going to grow. Yeah. That's an important factor. Understand you have a 60% chance with a pistol. You got a 80 or 90% you have a better chance with pepper spray. And if you're really going to be in grizzly country, bring both.
And I haven't seen grizzly, but you and I have both had bear encounters. Yeah. Out bow hunting. Yeah. Once we were out prospecting, that was different, but
we had one with bow hunting together.
Yeah. Well,
Middle Creek or
Base
Camp Creek, I think is what we're calling it.
Yeah, it was just near Base Camp Creek. This thing was coming down because our messy camps weren't well kept. But I have no idea. I'm just making that up. But
whatever.
But it was there, and the size of their head is disproportionately smaller than the rest of their body, and so I could see it when I wouldn't use my camera, because we pulled out our cameras like we're tourists. Like, hey, there's a bear. Pull out your camera, start recording. And you got a much better shot than I did, but this thing was huge.
He was a big
compared.
He was a big dude.
And then I almost stepped on one 2016 or 17 coming up a ridge. And then I say 3.5 bear encounters for me. This would have been your fourth, because you saw it running across an opening.
I did,
in the backyard, and I was like, where? I had no idea. So.
Yeah,
I don't know if it even counts for me, but
I mean, the black bear encounters, I'm not worried about. No. You've seen footage of them charging men. The encounter that I read though about this grizzly was really intense, because it was the same bear. She had cubs. Oh, yeah. He used his entire pepper spray can the first run, and his gun was tossed. His gun was ripped from him in the second encounter. And so he actually got, it's a great story. He actually got back up after the second attack, found his gun, kept it in his hand because he just had it in a holster on his chest. And the whole time because if you act like you're alive, they want to eliminate that threat. Yeah. That's why you act dead with a grizzly bear. You are a threat, and they are going to eat you. As long as you're calmed down, we're done biting. But if you wiggle, right, and they got a 1,200-pound paw down on your chest, and you can't breathe. Oof. Yeah, I mean it's really, really tempting. So any types of those wiggles, and they just go back into a frenzy of biting to make sure you're done. And so he had to lay still for a long time after she had gone, because he didn't even know. Yeah, that she had gone. So frightened of a single move that would encourage another frenzied attack. Wow. Anyways, he gets his gun, gets back to his truck, starts driving into town, sees a farmer. Hey, buddy, I don't think he had a phone or something. And he says, hey, he talks to this farmer. Hey, man, I was attacked by a bear. Can you call the hospital, let them know I'm on my way? And the rancher's like, you know, I can give you a ride. No, I wouldn't want to bother you. I'd bleed all over your truck. I'll be just fine. I'll get in there. He was getting stitches for like 8 hours. Ugh. 8 hours of stitches, so many puncture wounds. Anyway, yeah, carry some pepper spray. I'm not against guns, but I think pepper spray has
the evidence really mounts towards pepper spray.
Yeah. So and all we want to do is be safe. We want to have fun adventures out there, and seeing grizzlies is exciting and scary. Yeah. Seeing wolves is not scary at all. It's just exciting. Yeah. But the grizzlies, they do add a little element of fear. And part of why I want grizzlies in the ecosystem is to keep that fear healthy. Yeah. Please. The wilderness is a wild place. We don't belong there. You need to prepare to go there. And part of preparing to go there isn't bubble wrapping the wilderness by removing grizzly bears and removing cats. Part of the wilderness experience is knowing what could happen. Yeah.
Agreed.
So
Very
I'm
much agree.
so I'm excited. I'm excited about the population of the grizzlies, and I'm also excited about the possibility to hunt this
Yeah.
expanded
Okay.
population of grizzlies. Okay, let's move on.
All right.
What's our time right now? Oh, so we got 47 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, 47. So, mountain goat kills grizzly. Another grizzly. But I've heard stories like this before, you know, and you get in a certain circumstance. I don't even have to read this article to appreciate what it's insinuating. You know, you're having probably a precarious situation. Mountain goats don't live in an easy terrain.
Nope.
And so it's very, very likely that...
And they want to live.
Yeah, just like a human.
They want to live. And as a human, I want to live, but I know that the emergency room is literally 3 minutes from here.
Yeah.
Probably less.
Exactly.
And I know that. And there's a quick care available, and I can do all kinds of stupid, risky stuff.
Yeah.
Animals do not have that luxury.
No, they don't.
And they're faced with a grizzly. Are you going to run? Are you going to fight? And yeah, a mountain goat killed a grizzly.
That's fantastic.
Wasn't on purpose, I'm sure, but you know, you do anything to survive, and it's rough out there.
This one's a bit of a lengthy read here. It talks about Niemeyer helped introduce
Niemeyer.
Niemeyer. Sorry.
So yeah,
Niemeyer.
so there's like 4 of these pictures. But here's I just wanted you to hit that name Niemeyer. You remember the name?
Niemeyer, yeah.
Wolfer by Carter Niemeyer. Guess what? Wolves have showed up in Colorado, and who's there to help them? Carter Niemeyer. Yay! It's really cool to see this guy who really helped and it says in the article, even as much as it did in the book, I am neutral when it comes. I don't have a political affiliation when it comes to the reintroduction of wolves. They belong in the ecosystem. We're here to help them in the ecosystem, and sometimes they have to be removed from the ecosystem. You have to train them. He says in this article, you got to train them. If they're coming after your cattle, you know, you got to train them. Let them know that's a no-no.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. Just like they have territory with other wolves, and if they cross that boundary, they're taught a lesson.
It reminds me of the lessons that I had when I went into the Bob Marshall in '95. Now, this had nothing to do with wolves, but it has everything to do with training. And so the big thing that we were told as a group, because we're going into bear country.
Yeah.
If a bear shows up, you group together, you make a lot of noise, you let them know this is not acceptable, and you make sure that you keep that healthy fear. This is why you have laws in states where you have like black bear problems, where people like in Oregon, there's a problem with people in Oregon with this huge black bear population feeding the bears off their back porch. Some people will even die because the bear will attack them because, oh, they're my friend, they could never hurt. No, they're a wild animal. And you have to keep it that way. That's why these laws are in existence in these kinds of places, and you will get fined and get in trouble. I think there's episodes on I Shouldn't Be Alive regarding that very thing, actually, about a woman getting an older lady but I feel bad because she's in a disposition where she doesn't really have anybody. This is just what she does. And she's like, well, at least the bears are going to, you know, but she ends up dying.
Yeah.
Maybe, no, that's a show called Fatal Attractions.
Okay. Well,
That's
whatever.
Another great show to stream, by the way. Don't have exotic pets and don't feed the bears.
Oh, geez.
Anyway, so yeah, train them to come back to the wolves.
Yeah. So having them trained, and to see that Carter Niemeyer is still involved in the wolf, and we have more wolf Colorado stories coming up. I don't know if they're next, but we definitely have more stuff going on in Colorado with the wolves.
What was this one? 23 wolves in parks or in park packs have been killed so far this winter in Montana.
So here's what happens. Just as a wolf doesn't care where the where the United States Canada border is,
right?
They don't give two flying freaks. They don't care where the borders of Yellowstone National Park are.
Exactly.
And neither does the Montana Fish and Game.
Right.
They say you can kill wolves here. And now they've killed 23 wolves from a single pack. Or I think I've showed you TikToks where I'm like, hey, this is trail cam footage. Count the wolves that go by.
Yeah.
It's a task.
It's insane. Yeah.
It's a task to count that high. Exactly. Some of these packs are really big. So anyways, there's a petition saying, oh, all these wolves from Yellowstone are being killed. Please stop. They want them to stop. And yeah, that's tough. We you know, they really want to manage. You know, I guess the interior ecosystem of Yellowstone National Park is relatively intact.
Right.
Probably the most intact you'll find. And if training a pack is a real thing, I guess they'll stay out of Montana, won't they?
Possibly.
They could, you know, transfer that knowledge and say, oh yeah, we lost some friends there. Let's not go there, or we lost family. How we're so so anyway, but you know, we have to balance the ecosystem with humans outside the boundaries of Yellowstone National Park. And part of balancing the ecosystem with humans is hunters.
Yeah.
Hunting cats, hunting wolves, hunting bison. A lot of bison get hunted. I don't know if you're familiar with the clip of a cross-country skier stabbing a guy with a rifle because he was hunting bison legally outside of Yellowstone National Park.
Come on, people.
Like this is 80s. This is like 80s or 90s.
That's
and it was such a hot issue to kill these bison, which were overpopulated because there was no wolves there at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
It was so bad. It was so bad, and there's disease. That's all kinds of stuff. Anyways, so then they said, okay, well, let's give some tags for buffalo to Native Americans. Nobody's gonna give a Native American a hard time for killing a buffalo. Nobody.
There you go.
I can't even say what it's like. But you don't do it. You don't give them a hard time.
Exactly.
It's like saying certain words. You just don't do it.
Yeah.
And you would never. So anyways, it was a great solution to the problem to go, hey, you know what? Maybe some Native American tribes could use these buffalo tags. And they do, and everything calmed down because they realized, yeah, it was a smart idea. And now they can sell tags to regular guys like us.
Yes.
Anyway.
This next one is less of a story, more of a picture. Non-typical bull. Holy crap. He's got like antlers sticking out of all parts of his head.
Yeah. Just some really, really interesting stuff. Which one is that? Can I see that real quick?
Yeah, let me
see if I recognize him. There's
crap.
There's one down in Arizona that's just famous. People do portraits of him.
Hold on, Mike.
And this one guy I told you I follow, he was Jedi Outdoors and now he's Toot on TikTok. He gets a ton of trail cam footage of this epic. Are you gonna bring it up on the?
I'm trying to.
It's okay.
I'm having some problems.
It's all right. We'll put it up. We'll put it up later. I'm drinking a latte, which, by the way, is an American word for just some warm milk. You sissy.
There we go.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is crazy.
Yeah,
he's like a quadruple unicorn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like horns coming out of his skull in a bunch of different places. Would have been interesting to see him mature a little bit.
Yeah, to see what he looked like in a few years.
Yeah.
We've definitely seen some cool non-typical features, on some of the antlers.
In places we hunt.
CPW has wildlife officers in Jackson County working with ranchers to find solutions. That must be the Colorado.
This is Colorado apartment of they're what they're doing is working with the ranchers to help train the wolves.
Yeah.
And they're putting some red flags on fence. There's got to be with the data set that Montana and Idaho and Wyoming have had with ranchers dealing with wolves, there's got to be some pretty solid solutions out there.
Some practical solutions.
Really
as well.
practical. There's like alpacas.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what it is. Maybe it's llamas or so. There's some like protective animal that you can send out there with your cattle that will help them protect them from the wolves.
Sheepdog.
And sheepdogs, well,
I'm just kidding.
Sheepdog might be.
When I say sheepdog, the only thing that I can conjure up in my mind are the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Right?
Morning, Fred.
Another
Hello,
bear, Fish and Game Wildlife Service removed greater Yellowstone ecosystem population grizzly bears from the endangered species list.
Removing grizzly bears. This is part of the grizzly bear story. Removing grizzly bears from the endangered species list from the greater Yellowstone ecostone. I was going to call it an ecostone.
I think that works. Ecostone makes sense.
I can't. I have an ecostone. I got to go to the hospital. I'm not sure. The greater Yellowstone ecosystem. So that means to in a large part all the way down Teton, and it covers Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana. It covers wilderness in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. And there have previously been hunts authorized. People bought tags. In fact, even photographers bought tags. They say, there's a photographer bought a tag. I want to take a picture of that. That's great. If you want to buy a tag and not use it, great.
Yeah.
Please. That'll just mean more grizzly bears next year for other people to hunt. They're just going to adjust the numbers of what they let us hunt. So please, do what you got to do. Do what you think is right. And I'm all for transporting them to California, by the way.
Yeah.
California, If you want to talk responsible ecology, grizzly bears belong in California, period.
And I'll just caveat that, I mean, think of their state flag. It's not a legit flag right now because there's no grizzlies there.
Nope.
We want to help out California, not say something and do something different. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, that could be taken in a lot of different directions.
We want to help California be less hypocritical. That's what you're saying.
With their flag. I'm just saying their state flag has a bear.
It's a little hypocritical. It's a little hypocritical. Maybe change it to a hippie.
I was misreading this next one. It has to do with Virginia's first managed elk hunt opens. No. The application to hunt opens February 1st.
Yes. So I just want to say, let's talk about elk hunting. If you want to talk about elk hunting, you need to plan your hunt. You need to pick a state. You need to do the research. I'm not going to do it for you. But we're going to show you some things. We're going to talk about some things. And maybe next week we'll talk about Google Earth.
Oh, yeah. Google Earth. What a blessing that has been.
Oh, man. How do you not live? And I love making movies on Google Earth. You know, they have a movie maker feature, and you can just pop around and go, this and that. Oh, it's so fun. Anyway.
More wolves here. West Yellowstone opposed Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks higher wolf hunting and trapping quotas.
Yeah, so not enough people are interested in hunting wolves, just like you. You're not interested in hunting predators. And I will shoot one. I kind of have a little bit of interest in hunting them. I think that if I win the lottery, I would have more interest in hunting them because I'd have more free time to go and hunt them. But there's just not enough people, and they have to hire people because, again, we're talking about managing the ecosystem with the human population. And that human population consists of ranchers and their cattle, and we just have to keep those in balance. And so sometimes we have to hire trappers and hunters to get the wolves. So I think it would be great to have a wolf pelt, and I would love the chance to do it. And maybe someday I'll be more serious about taking that chance.
Maybe, yeah.
I probably will.
we got about 3 minutes till the top of our hour.
Okay.
I actually saw one in here that I actually saw this week. It has to do with a giant possum.
That's right, because we had a discussion about opossums on Mount Bora.
Yeah.
Because we saw something I've never seen before. I don't even know what that was. Do you remember that little fur-covered thing? That's what brought in the conversation. You said marsupial.
Oh, yeah,
it looks like a marsupial. Right. It's like a...
Oh, yeah, that little high mountain rat thing.
Yeah. It wasn't a long-tailed weasel. In fact, it looked like a long-tailed weasel had been cut in half and then stuck back together side by side. Yeah. It was like a fat square... I'd never seen one before, and it was above 11,000 feet.
It was probably way up there.
It was probably closer to 12,000 feet.
Yeah.
And in the rocks when we saw it.
That's where it was, living in the rocks.
So, and Dave was like, well, it looked like a marsupial. I go, I think there's only one marsupial in the United States. And you're like, no, there's not any.
Yeah, I thought, of course.
I think the opossum is a marsupial.
Yeah, I sit corrected today.
And this popped up, and this is a big opossum.
Yeah, huge. Like, it's as big as a man.
The guy thought it was a bear.
Yeah.
So there's a picture of him. It'll be on YouTube. There's a picture of him. If you see it circulating in the news, if you follow hunting and fishing, it might be. Okay. You might see it.
So let's finish our news headlines with this one because this one I was looking forward to. I talk about Bigfoot in the classes I teach.
I love Bigfoot.
Oil field worker Alberta captures Bigfoot sighting on dash cam.
Yeah, with the, there's a joke out there. I see a Bigfoot. Quickly, hand me the worst camera you have.
Yeah, that's what I do when I see Bigfoot.
Hold on a second. No, not my new iPhone. The images might be clear.
Our brain works to force meaning out of meaningless stuff, and so
every stump I see in glass, I thought it was an elk.
Yeah, it's based on history, it's based on belief, prior experiences. All of these things cause us, and I don't want to take anything away from somebody who feels legitimately that they saw something that they believe to be a certain whatever. But it's very easy for your brain to just jump to conclusions and be convinced of those conclusions. When ambiguity is there, it's going to fill in those gaps with what you believe or
what you want to believe.
Or want to believe. So doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean you're wrong.
You and I read a book about it.
Yeah,
called what was it? The editor of Skeptic magazine Why people believe strange things.
Yeah, that was Michael Shermer.
And he was a long-distance bicycle racer. Yeah.
And he talked about being, what is it, Colorado, when he...
Prodded by aliens. He was attacked and kidnapped and prodded by aliens.
Yeah.
And really what it was was exhaustion.
Yeah, so exhausted.
And if exhaustion is ever going to hit and give you some sort of cognitive delay, it might be during elk season.
Yeah. We talked about the Grim Reaper last week or a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was really all it was exhaustion on my part. Having you kicked my butt and you had me hiking all day, and I was limited water and limited food. That was my fault for not drinking.
Dehydration is serious. Dehydration can really mess with your brain. When the greatest threats, as much as we talk about grizzlies and wolves, the greatest threats are hypothermia and dehydration. Yeah. Have hot or cold sweet beverages.
Yes.
Hot or cold sweet beverages. If it's dehydration, cold sweet beverage. If it's cold, hot sweet beverage. And you're really gonna up your chances.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get all excited about safety. What were we talking about?
Well, with Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. Oh yeah. I had a class with Meldrum, Jeff Meldrum.
From Idaho State University.
Idaho State University. If you've seen a Bigfoot special in the past 20 years, this guy has been on it. He's a doctor. He's a professor at Idaho State University. And I took organic evolution. I loved his class. His voice is awesome. He's been on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Sure.
And I want to believe there's a Bigfoot. I don't. But I really, really want to. That's where I am on that issue.
I'm with you on a very similar platform. You know, I grew up believing in a whole host of things I don't believe in anymore in terms of like Bigfoot and aliens. Now, again, my own experiences have just given me the data to say that it's probably not what it seems. But early on, especially hiking in the early 2000 teens, you know, especially when I was out by myself, but primarily when I'd be out with you out in the middle
base camp
and stuff out in those areas, I would see Bigfoot. So I saw Bigfoot for a few years. I'd stop and I remember hiking in one time, and the sun was just barely coming up, and I'm like, there is a nasty looking mean Bigfoot staring down at me. Like I'm all of, you know, in my mid 30s, and I'm still being freaked out by this, but I stop and I have to challenge my brain, break down the scenario, and it turns out like every time, 10 out of 10 times that 100 times, whatever it is, every single time it's a stump with some bush that sort of causes me to believe that I'm seeing a mean grizzly face. And we're actually built to pull faces out of ambiguity. So
right.
It's easy for us to perceive these kinds of things. So I actually have not seen Bigfoot in the wild in that capacity because I started really challenging my brain to see it for what it really is. And so now I just don't see it the way I did. So starting in probably 2016, I don't have a Bigfoot story. At least I don't really tell people I saw Bigfoot. I always challenge myself to break down the surroundings, see what it is. And it's always stumps and bushes.
Yeah.
And so, but since about 2016, it just haven't happened.
I think sometimes I go out hoping to have an encounter.
Yeah.
Absolutely hoping to crap my pants and really have that encounter because you see guys have them.
Yeah.
And they're so real. I mean, the how these guys are explaining it and talking about it is so visceral, and you feel it from them. And so, and some days I'm looking for it.
Yeah.
I'm like somebody, and I had a buddy who's like, oh, I got a buddy who's a Bigfoot expert. I go, really? I go, yeah, he'll go out with you. And I go, okay, I'll go out with him. He goes, I'll text him right now. And we're driving, and he texts him. He goes, okay, what do you want? He goes, what do you want to do? I go, make me believe. Okay, let's go. Anyway, so he quit. Yeah. He quit, and I didn't talk to him anymore. But he quit his job. But anyways, so just make me believe. I would love to have an encounter.
Yeah, I'm not. And to pull it back to elk, for a long time up where we've hunted primarily in the last 10 years, there were times where I'd be alone where I would hear stuff that I would think, well, is that a bear or something? And I've actually come to learn that I was hearing elk, and they sound like like some sort of creature other than themselves, and it's these low groans that sound like a growl.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, I can understand that could be misconstrued as a bear, can be misconstrued as a Bigfoot. Because if you don't see it, but you hear it coming from a stand of timbers, right? But I had enough experience one day where I heard these groans. They were happening about every 20 minutes. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. And then after a while, I heard this groan develop into the slightest hint of an almost bugle. And I was like, oh, it's an elk. And I finally put the pieces together because I've heard these noises all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely wild, the things that you think you see. Like I said, every twig, every stump you glass, that's a bear, that's an elk, that's a mule deer.
But the sounds, so in combination with all the incoming stimulus, you never know what to think except for experience. And if you don't, seeing is believing. And recently, I don't know if I'd shared this with you, and I know we got to wrap things up, but mule deer trust their eyes before any of their other senses.
Yeah?
And so when you have experiences out in the field with mule deer, they stop and they stare. They have that curiosity, not because they're curious, but because for them, seeing is more than hearing, and smelling is a part of it. So because they sort of evolve, my understanding is they evolve in the flat, open, like sagebrushy areas.
Yeah.
And so seeing for them is more important than... it's all important, but it's the first thing, and that's why that deer in the headlight
most important,
and the experiences we've had with mule deer, particularly, even though we're on hillsides and there's trees, but there's a lot of sagebrush out there, and it's like they'll stop, they'll stare, and it's like, well, it's almost curious, and I've almost walked up to them, but they're trying to figure it out. So if you're really, anyway,
visual inspection is really important for elk too,
right?
And we have come to understand that, and because visual communication is important. These are prey animals. They don't want to be making a lot of noise. We're lucky that elk do have the communications that they do
in September,
especially during hunting season. But it's about nonverbal communication, and they use their bodies a lot to communicate. And so that's why I'm on the fence with decoys. Yeah. Right, I know a lot of guys use decoys, and some get curious, but there's a lot of nuance to that.
Yeah,
and so, anyways, that's it. That's it for elk season. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be back next week. We might be having a beer on the elk season podcast. Goodbye.
Cheers.